Welcome to Bulletproof Veteran Podcast. Thank you for your service.
All right, welcome back to Bulletproof Veteran Podcast. We got a live one for you this week. All right, so we try to focus on getting information out to veterans and the community at large on how they can better themselves. And we keep hearing time after time, week after week, every interview that we do, that there's this period in a veteran's life, this transition from the military into the civilian world, where there's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of bad decisions that are made. There's a lot of misinformation, and people don't always set themselves up for success. Okay. They maybe don't know what career path to choose. Well, we have on the show this week, Dr. Thomas Moorman. Okay. And he right now is the provost and the school director for the Perfect Technician Academy. So what that basically is it's an HVAC school. It's a trade school, but they really have focused a good deal of their energy on attracting veterans coming out of their service and setting them up with a trade and setting them up for success for that transition period and making sure that they have a skill now that they can market to companies, maybe outside of what they just learned in the military. You know, if you were an infantryman and you don't want to be a police officer, an FBI agent, or something like that, it's hard to market that skill. But we can get into something like the trades. There's a lot of doors that just swing wide open for you. So, Dr. Moorman, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Jason, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
That's great. So I want to hear a little bit about you. Obviously, you have quite an interesting past. You have been recognized by pretty much every organization that you've ever been a part of, dating back to the University of North Texas. You've been in medical schools, focusing on the academic side of that. You've transitioned into different arenas, but it kind of all started in a veteran family. You started in a military family. So please tell us all about yourself.
Absolutely. So yeah, I was born on a military base overseas. We came back to the United States when I was 3 years old, I guess, and moved to South Texas, where my dad ended up retiring. But my father served as a naval aviator from 1941 till 1975. So a variety of different conflicts taking place during that time.
Yes,
that he was involved in different ways. And he didn't talk a lot about what all he did, but I know he was flying in the Pacific quite a bit. And then when we were actually we were stationed in Africa when I was born, and he primarily said he coordinated mail runs through the Middle East and through Asia. So I'm not sure what that all really means, but I don't think it was all really mail, but that's okay.
Probably not.
But anyway, my dad always told me, he said, you have two choices. When you turn 18, you can join the military, the priesthood, but you're on your own. You got to figure it out. I was very fortunate in different ways. Academically, I did well in school. I ended up getting a scholarship to go to a community college. So I ended up doing that to start out, and really just found my place in education. And so I chose to continue on, get my undergraduate degree, move into a master's program, and eventually get my doctoral degree and work in higher education as an administrator. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. And it's been a great choice for me. But, when my dad left the military in 1975, I still remember one of the reasons why I came to trade school and why I've gotten involved with this group and really working with the veterans is when my dad came out of the military, it really was a difficult time. And, we're living on base, 6 kids, family, everything's going great. Everything we needed was right there on base. We moved off base when he retired, and he thought, I've been a commander. I'm going to have opportunities. I've led all kinds of people. I've led organizations and done really well. It was great evaluations through the military, everything, and went into civilian life and really couldn't find anybody that would give him an opportunity in what he wanted to do and struggled with that. And so he ended up never actually working for another person again. My mom ended up going back to school, getting a degree and teaching school for a while, and then went back actually to where it was comfortable. She went back to work with Dodds on military bases overseas and served for another 25 years on military bases overseas. And so our family's always been around that military base, but I still remember that time in between there where everything kind of spiraled a little bit out of control. It was a really tough time for our family financially, and everyone kind of figuring out what we're going to do. And that's one of the reasons why my dad always said, when you turn 18, you're on your own. You can't keep living here. We've got to do something different. And so there were challenges with all of that. But in the end, there's opportunities. You just got to create those opportunities. And you have to have a solid plan and know what you're getting into before you leave. So when you're in that transition time, whether you choose to go to college, whether you choose to go to trade school, the best advice I can give you is have a solid plan of what you're going to do and then how you're going to use that to capitalize on opportunities.
Yeah. I'll tell you personally, my biggest mistake was when I was getting out, I had an idea, but I didn't have a plan. My idea was I was going to go to school. Well, that's great. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back into university, get my bachelor's degree, finish that up. That's all well and good, but I didn't have a plan to actually do it. So when I got out, I came back to Long Island, a very expensive place to live. For anybody in the audience that knows, New York is probably 1 or 2 on the list of most expensive place to live in the country. And I had this grand idea that I was going to go to school full time and work part-time, but I didn't want to live at home with mom and dad because I'd been out on my own. I've been all over the world. I didn't want to come home and live with my mom and dad. Well, that crashed and burned real quick because I couldn't afford the apartment. So what's the first thing to go? Well, I'll have to work more. Well, that means school's got to go because I can't go to school full time and work full time, or at least I didn't think I could do that. Come to find out, there are definitely ways to do that. But the first thing I did was kick school to the side. Well, now I'll just have to work and we'll deal with that later. And I was lucky enough that I grew up in a construction background. So I had something to fall back on, a skill. And I was a mechanic in the Air Force, so I had that skill as well. And before I knew it, I was working as a boat mechanic on the east end of Long Island. I was making a decent wage, and I could afford my apartment to live and to, have a girlfriend and go out on Friday nights or whatever the case may be. And I think that's what a lot of people, they shy away from the trades, but you're shying away from a great opportunity for an amazing career and an amazing skill that you can use, whether or not you even end up in HVAC, say, in your case. That's a great skill to have. Listen, if your air conditioner goes out in South Texas in the middle of the night, and you are the one that can go out there and change out that relay and get that thing running, your wife is going to love you for the rest of your life, okay? Because you're the one who fixed that, and nobody can take that away from you. But getting back to you and kind of what you're doing, you've focused on veterans, not completely. I mean, the school's open to everybody, but you're well known for being a veteran-friendly organization that has kind of seen, hey, these are smart people coming out. These are people that can read schematics. These are people that can be taught. There's something that can be said for the training that we go through in the military. We're very trainable people. So how did that kind of work out where you were like, hey, listen, let's start getting our veterans in these trades?
Well, the family that's really started the school has a long history in the military as well. Actually, the designer of our curriculum, one of the brothers, is a Marine, and the design of the curriculum was designed as a full immersion curriculum, just like you would to learn anything in the military. They're going to send you to something for 6 weeks. You're going to fully immerse in it, see one, do one, teach one. You're going to learn it as you go through it, and you really don't have time to concentrate on anything but that. That's exactly what our 6-week curriculum is we bring you in for 6 weeks. You're working 8 hours a day, hands-on in the classroom, in the lab, learning what you need to learn. You have 2 hours of homework every night, and you come back and start again the next morning and do it all again. And it's 6 days a week. So the only day you get off is Sunday. But it is an intense immersion type program geared after the military training. So it's very comfortable for a lot of military guys coming out of the military saying, I've done this before. I understand this kind of training. They come in, be successful, and move forward. We are a Texas workforce program. So we're licensed by the Texas Workforce Commission. And so our whole goal is really to get people into the workforce. We are GI Bill approved through the VA and through the Texas Veteran Commission that monitors us. But the military connection really is simple in our mind, is that there's a lot of guys that come out of the military that have a lot of good technical hands-on type skills, and they don't know what they're going to do with them in civilian life. The example I use a lot is the soldier at Fort Bliss who's repairing a Patriot missile system. You talk to him, he said, what community needs a Patriot missile system in the United States? Well, not very many, actually. And so how do I take that skill and then use it? I said, well, you talk to him, what's in that Patriot missile system, and the radar system, GPS, all the electronics, cooling, everything that goes on with that system. And you say, if you can understand the schematics and the technical nature of that Patriot missile system, I guarantee you we can teach you how to repair a home air conditioning system. It's much less complicated overall. And so you have that ability to take the skills that you have and transition them into something that's a practical trade that once you learn it, you always have that ability to do it. And I've known many people that have taken the trades and used the trades as an avenue to generate income while they continue going to school and other things as well, if they want to go to college or do something else. It opens the door, and you'll always have an opportunity. Now, with veterans, one of the reasons we like veterans also is when you talk about working in the trades, you got to know how to wear a uniform, wear it right. You got to know how to organize your tools, have your tools clean, things ready to go, organize your inventory. In the military, you're used to doing these kinds of things all the time. It's part of that regular habit that you get into. And so they fit into the trades very well. And, being GI Bill eligible, you have a choice, go to college, go to trade school. You can go to trade school and finish in 6 weeks. You can go to college and finish in 4 years. The average income of a college graduate is right about $48,000 a year. The average income of an HVAC technician, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is about $48,000 a year. So the reality is you can get into a fairly lucrative opportunity, support your family, and kind of get started. And this is an industry that if you do well, you can really do much better than what the average is.
Yeah. And when you talk about those averages, especially salary, listen, everybody is focused on salary. I don't blame anybody for that. I mean, there's a level of you want to be happy with what you do and you want to be satisfied with what you do, but money talks. You got to pay your bills. HVAC work, I think the national average, you're about $9,000 more a year than the national average for any given career, with education, no education, just what the labor department sees as kind of that middle. So you're $9,000 up and above that. You're, like you said, you're already sitting at what a college graduate would be making, depending on their career field, at $48,000. And your higher HVAC technicians are up in the 70s in a lot of areas that the cost of living isn't that high. You're making 70 where a cost of living is a little bit lower, say in a state like Oklahoma. You're doing really well at 70,000 if you can own your own business or just be a lead technician for a larger company.
Absolutely. And the reality is I know people. I worked in medical education for a long time, and I use that as an example all the time. Is that I know plenty of HVAC technicians that are making salaries equal to or even greater than my family practitioners that came out of my medical programs.
With a lot less loans.
The reality is you can make a very good living if you're willing to work hard and get a little bit dirty. I mean, yes, you got to crawl under a house sometimes, and sometimes you got to be in an attic, and those may not be the most comfortable environments, but anytime you find a job where someone else doesn't want to do it, you can make a very good living. Just ask Mike Rowe. He'll show you all those dirty jobs, and you can find a lot of great ways to make a good living.
Yeah. And, you can really use these skills, like you said just a few minutes ago, as a stepping stone to do other things if that's what you want. If you want to stay HVAC for the rest of your life, that's great. And you can really do very well, but you can also use these skills as a stepping stone. And I'm a prime example of that for, the audience who's kind of known my biography for a little while now. But for those that haven't, I got into federal service through what they called an environmental technician, which is HVAC, engine generators, power systems. That's what I did to springboard in. And now I'm a systems engineer for them. The two you wouldn't think the two equate to each other. But once you get your door into federal service, say, with a skill You got a better chance of getting hired with a good trade skill to get in the door, and then you can start applying for all the strange positions that every federal agency has. And there's a bunch of them. There's some weird stuff out there that only the federal government would employ you for, but you need to get your foot in the door. And something like HVAC, a trade, plumbing, electrical, something like that is a great way to get started they're hiring it. I think HVAC technician for certain agencies, they're hiring in at GS9. You could start at 65,000, which is amazing.
Yeah, and that's not unusual. So because we're licensed by the state, I can only quote Department of Labor statistics, but the reality is there's a lot of other opportunities out there that have much higher incomes and much higher potential, especially in commercial areas. So if you're willing to work in some of these commercial settings and things like that, there's great opportunities. And you got to think, not only because a lot of people think, okay, if I'm going to HVAC, I got to go into residential, and that means I got to go into sales, and I don't really feel comfortable with sales. That's not really true. Every school district, every hospital, every college campus, they all have HVAC technician jobs open. If you go and look, you'll probably find them on their books now. I mean, I track some of those periodically, and these agencies have a hard time filling those jobs because honestly, once someone gets into residential and realizes how much money they can make, they tend to not go into the commercial jobs as easily. So it's a back and forth. But the reality is once you have that trade skill, I mean, you can use it in so many places and so many opportunities, and it just opens a lot of doors, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, electricity, you named them. The reality, the trades open a lot of doors to other opportunities, and those skills have been deemed essential through the pandemic. So these tradesmen have been working continuously through the pandemic, making an income for their families, and it's transferable. I mean, you could go from state to state and still have opportunities to work in these fields.
Yeah, no, definitely, because it does. Listen, whether you're working on heating up in the Northeast or air conditioning down in South Texas, it's the same skills, and you can, if you need to move, those skills go right with you. So it's very true. Now, when you are part of, say, your courses and you're going through, when you complete it, what are your certifications, licenses? What do you finish with?
So when you finish, you're going to be trained. The training we give you is to prepare you to operate independently in a van for a contractor. So you would be driving a van, doing service calls, repair calls. You could even do installation calls if you needed to do that. So we're going to teach you everything you need to do that. You're going to come away with your EPA universal license, and then you'll have the opportunity for other certifications if you choose to do them. So NATE is one of the organizations that certifies HVAC technicians. There's multiple different NATE certifications. You do a core certification and then maybe air heat pumps and other things. So it really just depends on what you want to do, but we offer 5 different NATE certifications that someone could do while they're here if they choose to, but that's in addition to the coursework.
Okay. And your coursework that you're doing, who's teaching these courses? Are these more industry professionals? Are they teachers? Are they people that have been working in, owning their own companies and have retired and now come back to teach? Who's actually doing the instructing?
So it's a little bit of all those, actually. So every one of our teachers has worked at least for 5 years in the field. And so they've been technicians. They've been out there. Some have been working 15, 20 years in the field. Some have been co-owners of companies and other things come back. But the reality is the faculty or instructors that we have here are all very skilled technicians who have strong backgrounds in residential as well as even commercial applications, in repair as well as installation. And so, they're there to teach you everything you need to know. I will tell you that I believe we have one of the strongest curriculums and we have outstanding instructors. So you can't go wrong whichever class you get into, whichever instructor. And so each of our instructors is trained to teach the entire curriculum. So when you come for that 6-week program, that instructor follows that cohort of students all the way through that 6-week program. And the other piece that we do that a lot of schools don't is that instructor, they create a contact group with all the students that finish within that class. And if any student's out in the field after they've graduated and they run into something they don't know what to do, they can call back that instructor. The instructor will walk them through what they need to. They'll exchange pictures of what's going on, talk through it all, and he'll help them get through that, whatever that issue is, to help continue that learning even after they finish the school. Part of our goal is not necessarily just to run students through the program. our goal is to create quality technicians for the industry. And so the teaching doesn't stop when you finish the classroom or finish the lab while you're here. We make a commitment to we want everyone that comes through the program to be successful in the industry. And so we're going to do everything we can to help them through that and make sure that they do well on the job. We want to prepare that quality technician. One is the employers that are out there. We want them to come back to us to hire more students.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have solid relationships, and we do that by providing quality. When we started this trade school and I came from the medical school to work with the trade school, I told them, if we're going to do this, we're going to change the paradigm of what a trade school is. The history of trade schools is to enroll as many people as you can, graduate as many as you can, and good luck to them.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if we're going to do this, we're going to have small classes. We're going to bring in the right type of students. So we're going to focus on bringing in the right people. And when we get them here, our commitment is that we're going to do everything we can that every one of them graduates. So 100% graduation. And then we're going to do everything we can to make sure we have 100% placement. Now, we're not going to be completely successful at that all the time. I mean, that's just reality. But the reality is we're much higher than all of our competitors are in our completion rates and our placement rates. And one of the things I love is that when we place people, they tend to stay places for a while too. They don't just up and run away or leave the profession. And so that's one of the things that's a key piece of success, is that not only do we train them for the profession, but they stay in the profession.
Yeah. And it's such a learning process, even when you're done with your education side, because the trades are always changing. Again, my father, who owns a construction company for 45 years, new products come out all the time. New equipment comes out all the time. Do you guys offer any type of courses where people can actually come back? So now they're already certified, they're already, but something new has come out, whether it's a new chiller, Trane comes out with a new line of chillers or something like that. Do we have courses that we can come back as technicians and learn more?
So we right now we focus on this one course, so we don't have a lot of diversity or other things that we're offering. But if someone really is struggling with something,
mm-hmm.
our faculty keep up with new trends and all the new equipment and are willing to come to site and work with somebody and do those things. We'll do whatever we can to help people figure that out and be successful. But one of the things I'll tell you is the lab that we have out here, we probably have one of the biggest labs of any trade school. I think there's about 70 pieces of equipment that are in our lab.
Oh, wow.
And the primary reason people walk in and say, well, there's a lot of crappy equipment in here. And I said, well, yes, there's a lot of really old equipment in here, but this is what you're going to see when you walk into a house.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have 25-year-old equipment. We have 15-year-old equipment. We have 10-year-old equipment. We have brand new equipment. But the reality is, if you're working as a service technician, you're going to see a very diverse type of equipment based on the years that they're installed. The type of refrigerants that you use is going to be different for different systems, because that's evolved over time to be more eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're going to teach you everything you need to know to see what you're going to see in that field, up from the oldest stuff to the newest stuff that you're going to see now. We even do some stuff with geothermal stuff that, really you don't see a lot of now, but you're going to in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that's big, especially Canada's gotten huge in the geothermal. You're starting to see it more and more in the United States. It's where we're going. Like you said, more eco-friendly. You're not running into houses and seeing R22 that much anymore. I mean, you might, but you got to be ready for it.
It's time to replace the unit, because R22 is too expensive to keep putting it in, because we're not allowed to import anymore or produce anymore in the United States. And so, if you need R22, you have to buy what's left in the stores, and what used to be $3 is now $600. So, it's just time to replace those units and go to the new technology.
Without a doubt. Now, how is you being in Texas? The restrictions during COVID were up and down. They were pretty strict there for a while, and just recently they opened wide. I mean, they took pretty much every restriction away. How did you guys do with keeping your courses going and keeping the students engaged and working during COVID?
Yeah, so the only thing we really did is we reduced class sizes to 10 students so that we wouldn't exceed the maximums that the state put out there.
Okay.
We never stopped operation of the school, so we continued having live students, in-person classes. One of the benefits for us is, I told you this is a full immersion 6-week program. So when you bring a cohort of 10 students and they're here together for 8 hours a day, doing homework 2 hours a night, coming in the next morning, and they're doing that 6 days a week, they're not really exposed to a lot of people outside of that group. And so that's one of the benefits is, we kind of contain everybody. Fortunately, knock on wood, knock on everything, we didn't have a single student through the entire year that ended up having COVID or have a positive test for COVID.
That's great.
And so we were very fortunate throughout that. We did have to cancel a couple classes just because we weren't sure what the state was going to do. So in the month of April last year, we didn't start new classes, but we continued the classes we had going. And then when May came around, we started up again and just started at smaller sizes. And, fortunately, we were able to continue operation through the whole thing. We haven't had any issues. And, there's been a great need for technicians even now because a lot of schools went to either online, which I don't know how you teach a trade online.
Very difficult.
You don't get a good respect for electricity if you're doing it online. I'm just
Agreed.
saying. But the reality is that a lot of schools stopped teaching. And so there aren't a lot of graduates coming out of programs. And the industry is still in great need of hiring new technicians. This is an aging industry, and there's a lot of people that are stepping away, and there's not a lot of people that have been filling their seats as quickly as we need. And so if you go on Indeed and do a search, you'll see that nationwide there are multiple thousands of openings. Just in our local area, I think the last time I checked, there was 1,000 openings in the DFW area.
And that kind of leads me into one thing I wanted to ask you was, so when you graduate, what's that placement look like? How does that work? And what's that network kind of look like for the school? Because I think that's so important. You hear it in university all the time where it's alumni, there's a reason you go to Harvard. It's for the alumni. I mean, the education's great. I'm not taking anything away from that. But being able to walk in and see another Harvard grad and they give you a job because of it is really what you're paying for. How does your guys' network stack up to other trade schools out there, and how do you work your placements?
Right. And so really the quality of the graduates is the key. And as we have quality graduates going to contractors, then more contractors hear about us, say, well, we got a good we got a good guy from this group. Hey, you need to reach out to them. And so we've been able to develop some very large national partnerships with great companies. One like Gettle, they're based out of Las Vegas, but they're in Tucson, they're in Phoenix, they're in LA, they're now in Texas and San Antonio and Austin. We've done some different things with Summers Air Conditioning in Indiana. They're all the way through the state of Indiana. We've got great relationships with a variety of contractors through the country because we've been providing them quality technicians. They know what they're going to get. And so they keep coming back to us to get more. And so that's part of it, is we've developed these relationships. About 60% of our students at least don't stay in the state of Texas. So they go to contractors outside of the state of Texas. And so that's one of our goals, is to make sure we continue to grow these relationships with the contractors and try to find that placement. So one of the first things, a student arrives to campus, the first day they're here, they fill out a sheet that says, what are the 5 destination places where you'd want to be employed? What cities, states? For military people, sometimes they're in transition. They're like, well, I may move home where I grew up. I may move to my spouse's hometown because we've always been traveling. It's time to spend time with her family. Or we're just open to go anywhere on the East Coast, or, a variety of things come in. And so what we try to do is we work with contractors and try to match them up so they can meet these people even before they graduate. And sometimes students will have job offers waiting for them when they finish school. So that's our ultimate goal, is that only a handful of students ever graduate that don't have jobs waiting for them once they complete the program. So I think the class right now, we had a class start with 5 students yesterday. Only one of them is currently looking for a job. The rest of them are already placed, ready to go. When they graduate, they know where they're going. So if we get enough notice from somebody, we'll try to set them up to do a ride along or an interview with a contractor before they even come, and say, okay, yeah, we like this guy, the values match. Let's go ahead and give them an opportunity. We'll hire you if you graduate the program. And so, those are the kind of things that hopefully we can get some of those agreements with people before they start, even, so they know they have a place to go.
Yeah, that's a load off your back. If you already know you're hired, now you just focus on your schooling. You're not worried about, hey, where am I going? What am I doing? You already have that information. And one thing that I cued in on when you were talking just now is that most of the people, a large population, don't stay in Texas. Do you have a lot of people from outside the state coming to your school? Because it's only 6 weeks. So listen, for my job, I've had to go to Oklahoma for 4 and 5 months at a time. So that's not a big deal. And with the post 9/11 GI Bill, you get BAH. So you could just stay in a hotel and for 6 weeks, complete your course and then go back home. Do you see that a lot?
Absolutely. Actually, in the class right now, I think less than half of them are from the state of Texas. We have a guy from New Jersey, a guy from California.
Oh, wow.
They come from all over the country. And we worked out a contract. We have a local Marriott property here in Weatherford, Texas. And we've worked out a contract with that Marriott. Actually, that's if you go on Priceline.com or any of them, get the last minute deal that they have, our price is cheaper than what they're paying. And we pay it up front as rent. So there's no hotel motel taxes. There's no other state taxes that go with that, anything. So we get a really good rate for our students to attend school. So for the 6-week program, if you're willing to share a room with someone, it's going to cost you $1,200 to stay at a Marriott property. So you can't beat that.
And BAH is probably
it's about 1,800.
I was going to say it's just under 2,000.
State of Texas, where we are. Yeah.
So that's covered. It's covered. You can't use that as the excuse to not do that. Listen, if you have your own family stuff that you got to work through, I understand that. But money shouldn't be the reason why you're not getting the education that you need.
Right. Absolutely. And if you're GI Bill eligible, really the expenses that you have to pay is the VA doesn't pay for your licensing exam. So you have to pay for your EPA exam. That's $30. They won't pay for textbooks. You can get a textbook allowance, but they won't pay for that directly. So we actually have textbooks that we rent to you for $10. You can go buy a textbook on Amazon if you want it. So you have $40 of out-of-pocket expenses for the courses and stuff if you're 100% VA eligible. There's other third parties that help support VA veterans in Texas and things as well. So we try to hook people up with that. And then all you have to do is pay for your housing. So that's $1,200. So it's $1,240 is really the out-of-pocket expense for any 100% eligible veteran.
Yeah. And when you say out of pocket, if you play your cards right, that's really, it would come down to zero because there's ways to pay for pretty much all of that.
Right.
Through
the VA will reimburse. Yeah. The VA will reimburse individuals for certifying exams, but sometimes they'll take a significant amount of credit. And so the $30 is worth the, not doing the GI benefit. So it really depends. We try to talk everybody through the pros and cons so they make the best decision for themselves down the road.
Now, do you have some type of a liaison office for veterans specifically?
Yeah, I have a Marine that works for me, and that's what he does. Is he'll walk every veteran through, what they need to know, any questions they have. He's available for them all the time. So, 24/7, he has his cell phone with him all the time. And if he's awake, he's going to talk to him. He's very committed to helping veterans be successful. That's all he wants to do. So.
That's perfect because, like I said, it's so easy to make the wrong decisions when you're first about to get out. All you're thinking about is getting out of the military. I mean, at least I was. I wasn't. Yeah. I didn't want to go to their programs to tell me about how to make a resume or any of that stuff. Tell me where I had to get this checklist done so that I could get out the door. I was done. I was ready to go home. But I missed out on so many opportunities for help. So taking a pause, taking a deep breath, and contacting somebody like the Marine that works for you so that they can walk you through the process a little bit, it will help you in the long run because you'll have your VA stuff waiting for you. The money will be there waiting for you, and you can start school right away.
And we've partnered with several different organizations. There's a group called Centurion Military Alliance. They help with transition. We work with them and Shante. There's transition to the trades. There's a variety of different things that are out there that really support veterans. And so, not just our school, but any trade school, the opportunities are out there. I encourage people to look at those opportunities and find what's best for you. We're a little bit more expensive, say, than to go to maybe a community college. So it really depends. And we'll talk you through all those things, what's going to be right and best thing for you. If you can go full time, the sooner you get in the workforce, the better off you're going to be, is our opinion. A community college may take you 12, 14, 18 months to finish the program, but you can do it part-time while you're doing something else. So there's lots of pros and cons to it. So the key is whatever you're going to do, have a plan and know how you're going to implement that plan. And we're glad to talk you through it. If we're the right choice, we're going to do everything we can to serve you. If not, we're going to try to get you in the right direction. I mean, that's really the key.
Yeah. Listen, not everybody should go into the trades. My father employed a lot of young men along his way, and he just was blunt with them. He said, listen, this isn't for you. No hard feelings, but it's not a match. Everybody has a skill set, and it doesn't always align with what you think you should be doing. But like you said, if it is a match, let's get you exactly what you need to be successful, get you into the workforce as soon as possible so you can start an apprenticeship, so that you can start learning in the field, troubleshooting daily on real equipment.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what we want to do is, if you really have an aptitude for it, and we ask some standardized questions that we'll ask people on our application and stuff, and we can look at those answers and say, okay, yeah, you're going to be a pretty good fit, or you may want to reconsider this.
Yeah.
If you don't like confined spaces, you probably don't want to work in air conditioning, because eventually you're going to find yourself in a confined space.
Yes, you are.
Now, that might not be all the time, and there may be some industrial things you could do that'll be different. But the reality is, to get to that point, you're probably going to find yourself going through a confined space at one time or another.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't ever want to go up in an attic, well, you're not going to be an air conditioning technician.
Yep.
You're going to get a little bit dirty. But if you don't like being in an office, you like a different environment all the time, you like to be outside, moving around, doing stuff, you like solving problems for people and seeing the reaction of a customer when they get what they need. If it's 100 degrees outside in Texas and you cool someone's house down, man, they want to hug you and thank you every way they can. The money's not the issue. It's about being able to survive. And so you're helping people create healthy environments in their home that are going to allow them to thrive. And there's a lot of appreciation in that. So it's accomplishing a mission. I mean, there's another military piece of that too.
Definitely. And when you say accomplishing a mission, look at what just happened with you guys down in Texas and that winter storm that you had. I'm going to assume that plumbers and HVAC technicians are going to be in very high demand before the next winter, getting these houses ready for what they think might come again. You know what I mean? Everybody,
Exactly.
It's reactionary, but there's going to be a boom.
And they've been busy nonstop. I still, okay, so it's been 3 weeks since that happened. Right. I still know people who do not have hot water in their homes yet. So they're still working to get everything coordinated, get hot water, because the availability of supplies, you couldn't buy a plumbing, any kind of joints, any kind of junction joints. I mean, everything was gone. And so for a long time, it's taken a long time to get caught back up where we can actually get all the repairs done. And so, yeah, plumbers been in great demand all through this last month, no doubt about it. HVAC technicians as well, because, you had that cold spell and people trying to get their units back up and running again. And sometimes there's difficulties when things like that happen, when pipes freeze and other things happen. So getting everybody out there to make sure that we're going to make that home environment something comfortable for everybody. But again, it's an essential industry. There's always a need for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're talking, I think the Department of Labor has growth to 2029 sitting at like 4 or 5%. But I've seen estimates, and I know you, because you're licensed, you can't quote those, but I've seen estimates as high as 15% increase up to 2026, which is.
And actually, the Department of Labor had a few years ago, 14% was the number they put out for between 2016 to 2026. So just recently, they reduced that to 4% over the next 10 years. I'm not sure why, but that's the number they put out. We have not seen much change in the demand.
Yeah. So it is definitely, I don't want to call it an emerging market, because I think it's always kind of been steady growth. So I don't think this is a surprise that they need, because like you said, it's an aging out career field, similar to construction, where you don't have a lot of young people going into it. So the guys my dad age or a little bit older than me are now starting to retire, and there isn't a lot of people to come in and take these jobs.
Yeah, the door's wide open to step in. And a lot of people aren't stepping in because they think it's a minimum wage job, where it's really not. And, you go back to our high schools, and even coming out of the military, everyone is pushing college. You need to go to college, you get a better job, get a better opportunity. What we're finding now is college tuition has increased 400% relative to inflation. That's just crazy. And if that tuition's going up that high, eventually it prices itself out to being a value, because you have to take out so much debt that a lot of people can't repay in a timely way. It's basically like owning a home or paying for a home that you never get to live in. Now, college is great. It's right for a lot of people, and it opens a lot of doors for things. So if you have a plan, that make sure you do that the right way. But the reality is that there's great opportunities in the trades. There's lucrative opportunities. It's not a minimum wage field. Most of the technicians that are being hired out of our program, I think they make probably an average about $18 an hour. The Department of Labor is about $23 an hour. But Texas is going to be a little bit lower because our cost of living is a lot lower than, say, New Jersey or Long Island. So the reality is, you got to take those things into consideration. States that have a state sales tax or a state income tax and don't have a state income tax, all those things play into that factor as well when you're looking at where you're going to be employed and what those wages are.
Of course. And that's the thing. Like, you have to make smart decisions, especially in that transition period, because not everybody is on the up and up. Not everybody has a former Marine sitting in an office who wants to help you and want to steer you in the right direction. There's been a lot of stories about very predatory organizations that, for veterans, take that GI Bill, run it out to the last little dollar that they can get out of you, and you still don't have a degree or a certification or anything like that. So making sure you go to a reputable organization that that after your 6 weeks, I'm coming out with the network, I'm coming out with the license, I'm coming out with a certification, job placement, all that kind of stuff. It's so important because there's so many organizations out there that don't have veterans' best interest in mind. It can be scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of us that are here, if we felt that someone's doing something to harm a veteran or to take advantage of them, this place is going to be closed down right away. We're not going to tolerate that. We're not going to put up with other people in the organization doing that. I won't. I would step away. That's not what I'm here for. My goal is we're here to help other people make their lives better, whether they're a veteran, a non-veteran, whatever we're doing, any education that I'm going to be a part of. Our goal is to help someone improve their lives and become the best version of themselves that we can help them become.
That's great. So how does somebody, say you're in New York and you're listening to this and you just got out of the military and you want to go to this academy, how do we get more information? How do we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to check us out, there's two ways to do that. One is through the website. It's just perfecttechnicianacademy.com.
Okay.
There's forms on there you can fill out, download brochures, or you just fill out the application. The application is free. It'll give us information that we can then, have a representative call you and talk through everything with you and everything you need to know. The other is if you want to go just check out some stories and different things about the school, I encourage you to go onto YouTube and just type in Perfect Technician Academy and look at our page, look at what's out there, the videos that are out there, the testimonials that are out there.
Definitely. And you've been in numerous podcasts. You can go, there's a media section to your website. You can see there's news articles, magazines, publications. There's trade podcasts, veteran podcasts. Sit down, do your research, listen to this stuff and see if this is a good fit for you. I mean, that's, I'll tell you right now, I love the trades. I grew up in it. So I'm definitely, I would love to push more people into it because I think it's a great way to make a living. And I think it's a very rewarding career. Like you said, you almost get instant reward when you help somebody who maybe doesn't have heat and now you just fixed it. You're going to get that instant reward, and that's great.
Yeah, and you get to complete something and see a finished product, and that there's reward in that itself. Yeah,
no, without a doubt. Listen, Dr. Moorman, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I want to give you one last opportunity. Any kind of final thoughts, any information that you want the listeners to have?
The only information I'd really put out there, something I've already said, is whether you choose to go to a trade school, choose to go to college, make sure you have a solid plan, not a plan of what degree I'm going to get or what degree I'm going to get, what certification I'm going to get, but how you're going to use that to get that job, how you're going to market yourself and get out there. And if you're not sure how to do that, reach out to the industry. If you're interested in HVAC, contact a local contractor. Just ask them if you can do a ride along to see what it is to do that job. Many of them will let you come and ride along with one of their technicians for a day just to kind of get a feel for it. So I encourage you, get out there, ask the right questions.
That's great. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I actually have had Shantae on the show from Centurion. she was great, and you've been amazing to kind of continue on that information of what's out there in the trades for veterans and how they can use that to really kind of set themselves up for that second career after they're done serving, and just get into serving their community as somebody that's providing for people in need, because that's really what you're doing. Like you said, you're essential workers through this whole COVID thing. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jason. Thank you for having me.
All righty, sir. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you.